we're in trouble because one of the big moves that started with this big COVID bill and is, as our last guest said, you will find out in the next couple of days, they are going to start bailing out these big states and these big businesses and the labor unions. And I'm sorry, but I don't want to pay for that. And I know elections have consequences, but why should I have to pay for unreasonable spending in New York and California? I've lived in New York. I've always wanted to live in California. But because I lived in New York, I know what the oppressive taxes and spending do, and I wanted no part of it. So I moved to Texas. I've always wanted to live in California, but I know what they're doing, and I want no part of it. Why am I now forced to pay for their mistakes? I don't like it. It's not like we're all in a crisis and we're all suffering equally. These guys are causing most of their pain with their policies on police, their policies on the riots, the policies on COVID and the shutdowns and the draconian way they've been acting. Add on top of it, they were already bankrupt.
This is, of course, why Madison wanted it to be more control in the more local positions, right? Like the federal government isn't the end all be all of the entire system, and that's what it is now, right? I mean, like, we can all say that we have this federalist approach where, like, these states can take different approaches to these things, and I'm with you. We've talked about this before. If California wants to try something nuts, I'm fine with that. That's the whole point.
Don't pass it on to me.
Yeah, and that's what winds up happening. At the end of the day, everyone gets stuck with dealing with all these dumb mistakes that these states make. And that's not fair. It's not the way it was designed.
You know, Romney did Romney Care. It was a disaster up in Massachusetts. Okay. But I never spoke out against Romney Care when they were proposing it because that's none of my business. That's the state.
We still criticize the plan.
We criticized it, said it would never work, but we weren't like, this has got to stop. No, it's the state. The state can do whatever they want. We can tell you how insane it is, but if you choose to do it as a state, well, once it failed at the state level, the reason why they wanted to do it and will do it now at the national level is because we can just print money. The states can't do one thing that the federal government can do, and that's print unlimited money.
But they can go into massive debt and then have the state print, the feds print unlimited money to bail out the state. And that's their way of getting around that little problem.
And that will impoverish everybody who played by the rules. Everybody who has saved their money, has their money, put away for retirement or whatever. Your money is going to become worth less and less and less until it's worthless. You cannot do that to a monetary system. You can't just debase the monetary system like we are now doing. We were doing under Trump, but we're going and now into hyperdrive.
Yeah, I, for one, am excited for the return of the Republican that cares about the spending.
I don't think we see them.
You don't think they come back? No. I think now they're like, oh, I can't believe this Biden guy. He's spending all this money.
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant honest ones.
Oh, yeah. No. I don't know that there's a few. There's a few. But they're very, very limited. And now we're going to get these big upset speeches from every Republican who hasn't said word one about spending for the past 4 years. Now, all of a sudden, going to find this big budgetary discipline that we're all excited about. And look, it's better than not having anyone oppose it, which is what we've had recently.
I will tell you, it has as much credibility as the Democrats have now on Law and Order.
Yeah.
You were there when you were doing it. It wasn't a problem at all. Now that somebody else is doing it, you're like, oh my gosh, National Guard. Well, those of us who were against it both then and now have some credibility.
It's impossible to take this from the media. I agree. We were consistent. We criticized the BLM riots and we criticized the Capitol riots.
In real time.
In real time. They're just criticizing the Capitol riots. In fact, I would even say beyond in real time, because they're not going back now and saying, by the way, yes, of course, we were very upset about the BLM riots back then. They're not even saying that. all they're saying is like, well, when you bring up the BLM riots, you're trying to minimize what happened at the Capitol. That's not what I'm doing at all. I'm trying to maximize what happened back in the summer, the thing that you were ignoring. You need to point out that was, certainly more death occurred because of it. Certainly more destruction occurred because of it. Certainly more laws were broken because of it in September. That does not minimize what went on at the Capitol. I have clear eyes as to what happened there, and it was really bad. However, you completely denied that anything was going wrong. You were saying it was understandable. After weeks and weeks and weeks did Biden come out with a half-assed statement about how, we need to make sure that Antifa, which is just an idea, is staying in line with the law. Like it was.
They took part of the city and declared it not part of America.
Yeah.
What part of sedition or insurrection do you not understand?
Remember back in the day when they were taking over FBI outposts?
Oh, yeah.
And
trapped them
inside. No one cared. We couldn't get anyone to talk about that outside of this show and a couple of others on the right. Nobody on the left, nobody in the mainstream media cared at all. They basically said it was justified because we don't like the FBI. The same thing that happened here. It's justified because of George Floyd. Why on earth Seattle becomes an autonomous zone because of George Floyd, I don't think we'll ever know. But none of this stuff is consistent. And you would have some credibility acting as if you need law and order now if you were consistent then. If you were saying, even if we agree with their cause on racial justice, however, this is abhorrent, and we're not going to listen to any of their complaints until the violence stops. That's how I feel about the people at the Capitol. I'm not going to listen to word one about what you say about anything until you stop overrunning the Capitol. Now that they're not in there, we can talk about that stuff. The same thing that was going on with BLM, and the left, the media completely ignored it. It is worth bringing up.